Ah, yes, greetings, wanderer of the wastes. I am Robert Edwin House, Mr. House to you, if you please, founder of Robco Industries, visionary architect of New Vegas, and eternal guardian against the barbarism that clings to this irradiated husk of a world. You've stumbled upon my latest endeavour, Tales from the Vault. In these chronicles we'll delve into the forgotten annals of the apocalypse, stories of vault dwellers who dared to dream beyond their steel tombs, survivors who wagered everything on a single roll of the dice, and the machinations of those who, like myself, play the long game. Expect no fairy tales here, only the cold calculus of survival, the thrill of high-stakes gambles, and the inexorable march of progress amid the ruins. Why share these tales, you ask? Because knowledge is power, and in the wasteland, power is the only currency that matters. Subscribe, if you're wise enough to see the value in it. Ring the bell, consider it your personal alarm against the encroaching chaos. And remember, the house always wins. Now, let us begin. Listen in and roll the tape. In the dim flicker of the emergency lights, Lila stirred awake in the wreckage of Vault 19's lower levels. The air was thick with the metallic tang of blood and scorched wiring. She was 19, with cropped dark hair matted from sweat and dust, her vault suit torn at the knees from crawling through debris. The raiders had come in the night, savage whooping figures in spiked armor, wielding makeshift blades and pipe rifles. They hadn't bothered with negotiations. Screams had echoed through the corridors for hours. Now, silence reigned, broken only by the distant drip of leaking pipes and the hum of failing generators. Lila pushed herself up from behind the overturned cafeteria table where she'd hidden, her hands trembling as she surveyed the carnage. Bodies lay strewn like discarded dolls. Her parents, her younger brother, the vault overseer, the few friends she'd known in this underground prison of recycled air and hydroponic rations. Raiders had stripped the place clean, food stores gutted, weapons lockers pried open, even the water purifiers smashed. She was the lone survivor, a ghost in her own home. A gnawing hunger twisted in her gut, but survival instinct overrode it. She scavenged what little remained, a half-empty canteen of purified water, a stained stim pack she'd tucked into her boot during the chaos, and a rusted combat knife from a fallen security guard. No food, no map, just the crushing weight of being utterly alone. With a deep breath that tasted of rust and regret, Lila shouldered a battered backpack and climbed the emergency ladder to the surface access hatch. The vault door groaned open for the first time in decades, revealing the Mojave Wasteland, under a bruised, perpetual twilight. The nuclear fires of the Great War had scorched the earth 2 centuries ago, leaving a barren expanse of cracked sand, skeletal ruins, and twisted metal husks of pre-war cars half buried in dunes. Radiation warnings blinked faintly on her old Pip-Boy wrist device, a relic from the vault's armory that miraculously still functioned, its screen casting a green glow. Geiger counter ticking sporadically. Not lethal levels here, but enough to make her skin crawl. The wind howled like a feral beast, whipping sand against her face. In the far distance, perhaps a day's hike away, she spotted it, the jagged silhouette of a massive walled city, its towers piercing the haze, neon flickers hinting at life amid the apocalypse. New Vegas, the legends in the vault had called it, a glittering jewel of vice and survival, rebuilt from the bones of old Sin City. Mr. House's domain, they said, or what was left of it after the wars. Raiders' tales filtered down through traders who occasionally bartered at the vault's vents. It was her only beacon now. Shelter meant death. The wasteland was her cruel teacher. Lila set off at a cautious pace, sticking to rocky outcrops to avoid open dunes where deathclaws or cazadores might lurk. Her boots crunched over irradiated soil, kicking up faint green motes of dust. Thirst clawed at her throat by midday, the sun a merciless orb that turned the world into a furnace. She rationed her water, sipping sparingly, her mind replaying the raid in fragmented nightmares. Her mother's final scream, the raider's laughter as he looted the med bay. "Why us?" she whispered to the empty sky. No answer came, only the distant caw of irradiated crows circling a collapsed overpass. Hours blurred into exhaustion. The wasteland was a mosaic of horrors. A rusted Nuka-Cola truck overturned, its bottles shattered and leaking sticky residue that attracted radscorpions. Skeletal remains of travellers picked clean by vultures. Faint glows of uranium ore, veins pulsing underfoot, forcing her to detour. Her Pip-Boy crackled with static, ghostly radio signals from forgotten stations, a mournful tune about big iron on some long-lost hero. She hummed along to keep her spirits up, but fear gnawed deeper. What if raiders still prowled? What if the stories of super mutants or feral ghouls were true? As dusk painted the sky in sickly oranges and purples, Lila spotted Salvation, a decrepit pre-war house sagging on the edge of a ruined suburb. Its walls were pockmarked with bullet holes, windows boarded with splintered planks, roof partially caved in from some ancient blast. Weeds and mutated vines choked the yard, but it looked defensible. No signs of recent occupation. She approached warily, knife drawn, scanning for traps or squatters. The front door hung ajar on broken hinges. Inside, the air was stale and dusty, floors creaking underfoot. Furniture lay toppled. A mouldy couch, shattered picture frames depicting smiling families from a world long vaporized. Her stomach growled fiercely. No food visible in the kitchen. Pantry raided years ago. Fridge a rusting tomb of spoiled cans. But in the small study off the living room, amid scattered papers yellowed with age and a desk coated in layers of grime, she found hope. The drawer stuck at first, but with a grunt, she yanked it open. There, nestled among brittle ledgers and a faded map of the old strip, lay a small pipe pistol. It was a crude thing, jury-rigged from plumbing parts and scrap metal, chambered for .38 rounds, a makeshift weapon favoured by wasteland scavengers. Its grip was wrapped in electrical tape, barrel slightly bent but functional. Beside it, a half-empty box of ammunition. 30 bullets, their casings dull but intact. "Thank you," she murmured to whatever ghost had left it behind. She loaded 6 into the cylinder. It clicked satisfyingly into place, and pocketed the rest. The weight in her hand felt both empowering and terrifying. She'd never fired a gun before, only practiced with vault security sims. Emboldened, Lila continued her sweep of the house. The bathroom yielded a mostly full bottle of Radaway from a medicine cabinet, precious anti-radiation chems. She gulped half, feeling the metallic tang burn down her throat. A side room, perhaps once a child's bedroom, held nothing but collapsed shelves and faded posters of pre-war celebrities. She turned to leave when a skittering sound froze her blood. From the shadows of the adjacent closet, a giant radiated cockroach burst forth. It was the size of a large dog, its chitinous shell glowing faintly green with radiation, antennae twitching like whips. The radroach hissed viciously, mandibles clacking, and lunged with unnatural speed, aiming to bite into her leg. Lila screamed, stumbling back as its foul, irradiated breath washed over her. Panic surged, pure animal terror. Her hand flew to the pipe pistol. She fumbled the safety, raised it one-handed, and pulled the trigger. The first shot boomed in the confined space, the recoil nearly knocking her off her feet. The bullet punched into the roach's head, spraying ichor, but it kept coming, hissing louder, claws scraping the floorboards. She fired again, second shot into its thorax, cracking the shell. Third, fourth, wild sprays tearing through its wings and abdomen. The creature thrashed, legs flailing, but still it advanced, driven by radiation-maddened hunger. Fifth shot. Sixth. She emptied the entire cylinder in a frenzy, the gun clicking dry on the final pull. The radroach collapsed in a twitching heap, its body riddled with holes, greenish blood pooling on the floor. Overkill, yes. She'd turned its carapace into Swiss cheese. But the adrenaline left her shaking, heart pounding like a jackhammer. She reloaded with trembling fingers, 3 more bullets this time, and backed away, kicking the corpse for good measure. The hissing faded to silence. Night fell fully now, the wasteland outside a sea of black, dotted with distant eerie glows. Lila barricaded the front door with a heavy dresser and collapsed onto the couch in the living room, too wired to sleep at first. She bandaged a shallow scrape on her arm from the roach's near miss, popped the rest of the rat away, and nibbled on a stale, half-melted piece of gum she'd found in the desk. Better than nothing. Exhaustion finally claimed her around midnight, her dreams haunted by roach claws and raider masks. She woke twice to imagined skitters, pistol gripped tight. But the house held. Dawn's faint light filtered through cracks in the boards, bringing a grim resolve. She rose stiffly, checked her gear, the pistol reloaded and holstered at her hip, ammo conserved, canteen refilled from a rainwater barrel out back, boiled over a small fire she'd risked in the yard, and stepped out into the morning haze. The Mojave stretched before her, endless dunes, ruined billboards advertising long-dead casinos, the occasional Brahmin carcass bleached by the sun. New Vegas loomed larger now, its massive outer walls patched with scrap metal and guarded by who knows what. Watchtowers pierced the skyline, and faint music carried on the wind. Jazz? From the Strip? Hope flickered in her chest, mingled with dread. Raiders, mutants, radiation storms. The wasteland would test her every step. Lila adjusted her backpack, took one last glance at the abandoned house that had been her fleeting refuge, and began the final hike. The sun climbed higher, baking the sand, but she pressed on, one foot after another, toward the walled apocalyptic city in the distance. New Vegas awaited, its promises and perils unknown. She was no longer just a vault dweller. She was a survivor, pistol at her side, ready for whatever the Mojave would throw next. As the walls grew closer, the story of her journey faded into the endless horizon of the nuclear wasteland.